Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, and I mean literally a massive paradigm shift happening right now in the electric vehicle industry. We are looking at a fundamental, ground-up transformation in how we actually power our future. You know, the transition to electric mobility is incredibly exciting, but as that initial hype kind of settles down, the industry is slamming face first into some very real-world walls. So we're going to break down exactly what's causing this friction and then explore the fascinating off-grid solutions that are popping up to bypass it entirely. Okay, let's just jump right in and ask the one question that's keeping both consumers and fleet operators totally awake at night. If you talk to anyone who's even considering buying an EV, or say a logistics manager trying to electrify a fleet of commercial delivery trucks, the conversation almost never centers around the vehicles themselves anymore. The cars and trucks, they are incredible pieces of engineering. So what's the actual barrier here? What is stalling the revolution? 18. That number represents the 18 electric vehicles currently driving around for every single public charging port in the US. I mean, think about that ratio for a second. We've got roughly 130,000 public charging ports desperately trying to service over 2.3 million electric vehicles. This severe bottleneck is creating what experts are calling charging deserts. It's the absolute root cause of range anxiety, which is still the single greatest psychological and practical barrier to EV adoption today. People aren't afraid of the car, they are terrified of the grid. Which brings us to Section 1, the infrastructure bottleneck. This bottleneck builds into a massive logistical nightmare for the commercial transportation industry. We aren't just talking about your family road trip being inconvenienced. We're talking about the very backbone of our supply chain facing an existential hurdle. At the recent ACT Expo in Las Vegas, which hosted around 12,000 attendees, by the way, the consensus was incredibly clear. The transition to cleaner fleets is stalling not because of the trucks, but because of the plugs. The conversations at this event have really matured. It's no longer a debate about whether electrification will happen. It's a frantic discussion about how to actually deploy it when the infrastructure simply isn't there. Manufacturers are essentially saying, hey, infrastructure planning is the core of your fleet deployment now, not just an afterthought. And here is the core issue in a nutshell. Traditional fixed chargers, they take months, sometimes up to 2 full years to permit, build, and connect to a grid that often needs massive, expensive upgrades. You are entirely at the mercy of the grid. But on the flip side, mobile charging can be deployed in literally days without ever touching the power grid. As fleets realize they just cannot afford to wait years for concrete to dry and permits to clear, the industry is being forced to pivot to flexible, tech-driven models that completely bypass the traditional grid. All right, moving on to Section 2, the temperature penalty. As if the lack of chargers wasn't enough, extreme weather completely rewrites the rules. Get this, AAA study data actually proves that a 20-degree winter day slashes an EV's driving range by a staggering 39%. Imagine watching nearly half of your fuel tank just vanish into thin air because it's shivering outside. No way, right? And surprisingly, even hybrids lose nearly 23% of their efficiency in that exact same cold. Now, heat takes a toll too, with both losing efficiency around 95 degrees, but man, that cold weather penalty is absolutely brutal. So the crucial takeaway here for you as a driver or a fleet manager is that this temperature penalty drastically inflates your costs, especially if you're forced to rely on public chargers in the cold. To put that into perspective, if you are an EV driver relying on high-priced public infrastructure during a winter freeze, your operating costs skyrocket by nearly $77 per 1,000 miles compared to moderate temperatures. When you combine a 39% range drop with massively increased charging costs at those scarce public stations, you've basically got a recipe for total operational paralysis. So what's the fix? Let's check out Section 3, Mobile Charging as a Service. Having seen all those stark realities holding EVs back, the crazy 18-to-1 ratio of cars to plugs, the slow build-outs, those punishing temperature penalties, the market is finding a way out by untethering from the ground completely. We are witnessing the rise of MCAS, or Mobile Charging as a Service. This effectively unplugs the charging station from the earth and brings the power directly to you. Instead of driving your dying vehicle to a crowded, potentially broken public charger, a specialized van equipped with high-capacity modular batteries just drives right to your location. It's essentially flipping the entire fueling model we've relied on for a century totally upside down. And listen, this isn't just theory. Academic research, like a recent master's thesis from KTH, proves that this operational shift toward modular, eco-friendly mobile charging is a heavily researched, highly viable strategy to bypass traditional grid limitations. Academic and industry leaders are all over this business case because it gives us on-demand, flexible alternatives that promote decentralized energy. It cuts greenhouse gas emissions while directly attacking that accessibility problem plaguing both our cities and remote environments. Companies are leaning hard into the subscription economy now, offering EV drivers unlimited pay-as-you-go mobile charging. It acts like a highly proactive, high-tech roadside assistance. Take a company like BeCharged EV, for example. They offer a flat monthly membership that gives you unlimited charging sessions. You literally just open an app, tap a button, and a 50-kilowatt DC fast-charging van shows up to pump 50 to 100 miles of range in your car in just 15 to 30 minutes. It completely rewrites the psychology of EV ownership when you know for sure a charger will always come to you 24/7. Moving right along to Section 4, powering fleets and forces. So how does this actually scale up for massive commercial entities? Because hey, a consumer getting a top-up at the office is great, but the real test is whether it can sustain heavy coordinated operations. Well, to show you the sheer scale of this shift, BeCharged EV exploded across 15 states simultaneously, proving they can power entire business fleets overnight while bypassing the fixed grid bottleneck entirely. I mean, they powered 250 fleet vehicles in just 60 days. What separates this from your standard roadside service is the capability to charge multiple vehicles at once. They're expanding to 100 new U.S. cities and even launching in Mexico City, specifically to help rideshare drivers who are bleeding vital income just waiting at slow, fixed chargers. This is what it looks like when a market desperately needs a stopgap to outpace grid delays. And, it's not just civilian delivery trucks. This lack of grid connectivity is a universal systems challenge. Whether you're a logistics company trying to deploy 100 electric vans in an industrial park or a military unit operating thousands of miles from home, the assumption that you'll always have access to a reliable, hardwired grid, that is a very dangerous operational blind spot. Which brilliantly illustrates why even the Air Force is actively seeking commercial partnerships for deployable, modular charging units to power electrified ground support in extreme environments. At a recent Air Force Global Strike Command showcase, military leaders were specifically hunting for rapidly deployable units. They need systems that can pull power from generators, solar panels, or other vehicles, store it all up, and then discharge it on demand in austere flight line environments. The military totally understands that flexibility and off-grid modularity are absolutely crucial to maintaining a strategic advantage. Finally, let's look at Section 5, AI and the future. So where does this technology go from here as fleets and networks become entirely software-defined? We've seen the hardware, the modular batteries and those fast-charging vans, but the true magic happens when you pair that mobile hardware with advanced artificial intelligence. The answer is predictive intelligence. This means the system literally knows you need a charge before you even realize you're running low. BeCharged EV is deploying a platform called Predictive Smart Charging, or PSC AI. It integrates directly with a vehicle system, pulling live data on battery health, driving patterns, and charge levels. This isn't just reacting to an empty battery anymore. It's anticipating the need before it even becomes a problem. Let's walk through these steps really quick to see just how seamless this is. The AI tracks your battery, warns you, and then sends a van to you, completely eliminating that psychological barrier of range anxiety. Imagine you're driving. Your battery dips to a certain threshold and your phone pings. The AI says, hey, you're running low. Tap here to have a unit meet you at your next destination. You press one button, and by the time you park, the power is waiting for you. It transforms charging from this stressful, annoying chore into a frictionless, practically invisible service. Furthermore, this technology allows for highly targeted deployments right into those charging deserts, ensuring equitable access to power in communities that traditional infrastructure providers have, frankly, historically ignored. Through initiatives like the Apex 300 program, companies can map out areas with zero public charging access. And instead of waiting years for utility approvals to dig up concrete, they can immediately establish a precision zone model. They just rotate dedicated mobile units through these neighborhoods, creating an instant, reliable charging network for residents who previously couldn't even consider buying an EV. The ultimate goal of this whole movement is to construct the largest human-powered mobile EV charging grid on the continent, completely redefining how we think about fueling.
By aiming for a 1,000-unit deployment across the U.S. and Mexico, the vision is to establish a permanent, mobile-first safety net. This just entirely sidesteps the physical limitations of the grid, offering national, on-demand coverage for everyday consumers and massive commercial fleets alike.
I want to leave you with this final thought today. As you consider your very own transportation future, will you rely on hunting around to find a plug, or will the power come directly to you? As the electric vehicle revolution continues to unfold, it's becoming crystal clear that the smartest infrastructure, well, it might not be fixed infrastructure at all. It might just be an intelligent mobile service that meets you exactly where you are.